Stop satisfying yourself that a bigger budget builds a better survival kit. It doesn't. I've built functional kits from nothing in field conditions where getting it wrong meant real consequences, not gear reviews, not unboxing videos, actual training. And what I'm about to show you will replace every overpriced, undertested bug-out bag on the market. 10 items, one store, under $15. Shelter, fire, water, signaling, first aid, thermal management, all of it. And there's one item near the end, something you can buy for about $1, that will permanently change the way you think about starting fire. Let's build. Heavy-duty aluminum foil, one standard roll. Roughly $2. Most people walk right past this in the store and never think about it again. That's a mistake you won't make after today. Aluminum foil reflects up to 97% of radiant heat. That's not a guess. That's physics. When you tear off a 2-foot sheet and position it behind your fire, it throws heat back at you like a mirror. You've just built a radiant heat reflector that outperforms commercial options costing $15 to $20. Same principle the military uses in field expedient shelters. You angle the foil, you direct the heat, you control your thermal environment. But that's just the first function. Fold that same foil into a bowl shape and you've got a cooking vessel. You can boil water in it. You can heat food. You can sterilize small tools. One piece of foil replaces a dedicated cookpot you'd otherwise have to carry. Shape it into a curved dish and hold it in sunlight. You've now got an improvised signal reflector visible for miles. Not as precise as a glass mirror, but functional. And in a survival scenario, functional wins. Wrap it around a fire lay and you've got a windscreen. Fold it under your sleeping position and it becomes a ground insulation layer that reflects your own body heat back at you. One item, 5 functions: cookpot, signal mirror, windscreen, heat reflector, ground insulation. The replacement value of those 5 dedicated items runs over $40. You just covered it for $2? Most people buy a prepackaged survival kit and get a tiny signal mirror they've never practiced with and a collapsible cup that holds 4 ounces. You get a material you can shape to solve whatever problem shows up. That's the difference between a product and a capability. Your running total is $2. I've written up everything you need to know about building survival capability on a real budget, and it's linked in the first line of the description for when you need it offline. BIC style disposable lighters, a multi-pack, roughly $2 for 3. Fire is the single most critical survival capability after shelter. It purifies water. It provides warmth. It signals rescue. It cooks food. It stabilizes morale. Lose fire, you lose everything downstream. A standard BIC lighter produces approximately 3,000 ignitions. 3,000. That's not a claim from the packaging. That's documented, tested output. One lighter alone gives you more ignition capability than most commercial survival kits include total. You're buying 3. Why 3? Military doctrine requires a minimum of 2 independent fire sources in any loadout. 2 is the floor. 3 gives you redundancy on top of redundancy. You can stage one in your kit, one in your pocket, one in a separate bag. If you lose one, you still have 2. If you lose 2, you still have 1. Redundancy isn't paranoia. It's the first thing they teach you in survival training because a single point of failure kills people. Now, here's where most civilians get it wrong. They buy one lighter. Or worse, they buy a ferro rod they've never practiced with and assume it'll work when their hands are shaking, it's raining, and they can't see. A ferro rod is a fine tool for someone who's used it 500 times. It's a paperweight for someone who's used it twice in their backyard on a sunny afternoon. The BIC lighter works wet. It works cold. It works with one hand. It works when you're exhausted and scared and your fine motor skills are gone. That's why trained people carry them. 3 lighters, 6,000 to 9,000 total ignitions, $2. Commercial fire starting kits run $15 to $30 and give you a ferro rod, some wax tinder tabs, and a whistle you don't need. You just outperformed all of them for a fraction of the cost. Running total, $4. Contractor grade trash bags, not kitchen bags. Contractor grade, 3 mil thickness minimum, roughly $2 for a small pack. This is the single most underestimated survival item in existence. A contractor bag is a shelter system disguised as garbage collection. Cut a hole for your head. Pull it over your torso. You now have a vapor barrier that traps your body heat inside the bag. Documented field testing shows this raises your effective perceived temperature by 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the difference between uncomfortable and hypothermic. That's the difference between clear thinking and fatal confusion. Core temperature management is not optional. Without shelter capability in the first 3 hours of extreme exposure, your core temperature drops to the point where your decision-making degrades. Once that happens, every survival task after it gets harder, and then harder again. It cascades. The same bag laid flat becomes a ground cloth that blocks moisture wicking from wet earth into your clothing. Worn as a poncho, it sheds rain. Opened and angled, it becomes a water collection surface that funnels rainwater into a container. Wrapped around your gear, it waterproofs everything inside. One bag, 5 uses: emergency blanket, poncho, ground cloth, water collector, gear protector. Commercial emergency blankets cost $5 to $8 each. They tear in wind. They're loud. They can't collect water. They can't waterproof your gear. They do one thing, and they do it badly. A contractor bag does 5 things and costs about 40 cents per bag. That's not a marginal improvement, that's a category difference. Running total, $6. Duct tape, 1 roll or a partial wrap, roughly $2. Duct tape is field repair made portable. But it's also a medical tool most people never consider. You've got a blister forming on your heel 6 hours into a foot march. That blister will slow you down. Slowing down means less distance. Less distance means less options. Apply duct tape directly over the hot spot before the blister fully forms. It creates a friction barrier that prevents the skin from shearing further. Field medics have used this technique for decades. It works better than moleskin. It costs less, and you already have it because it's in your kit for 10 other reasons. Wound closure. You've got a laceration that won't stop oozing. Butterfly bandages are great if you have them. If you don't, cut thin strips of duct tape and apply them perpendicular to the wound edges. Pull the skin together. Tape holds it closed. This isn't a fantasy technique. It's a documented field procedure used when proper supplies aren't available. Shelter reinforcement. You're rigging a trash bag poncho to a tree branch. The attachment point is slipping. Duct tape secures it. You need to splice 2 sections of cord together. Duct tape binds them. Equipment repair, gear lashing, improvised cordage in a pinch. Tear it lengthwise into thin strips and twist them. Not as strong as paracord, but functional when you need a quick tie down. Here's the packing trick. Don't bring the whole roll. Wrap 15 to 20 feet of duct tape directly around one of your lighters. Saves space, saves weight, keeps both items in one place. Standard military packing technique. Most commercial kits include 0 duct tape. Think about that. A $100 bug-out bag, and they didn't include the one material that fixes almost everything. Running total, $8. First aid kit, a basic bandage assortment, roughly $1 to $1.50. Here's what military after-action data actually shows about survival injuries. The threat isn't the dramatic stuff. It's not gunshot wounds. It's not compound fractures. The real 72-hour threat is minor wound infection. A small cut on your hand goes untreated. You're moving through debris, dirty water, unsanitary conditions. Within 24 hours, that cut is red and swelling. Within 48, it's affecting your grip strength and your willingness to use that hand. Within 72, you've got a systemic infection risk that degrades your entire operational capacity. That's the documented pattern. That's what actually happens. A basic bandage assortment gives you adhesive strips for cuts, gauze pads for abrasions, antiseptic wipes for cleaning. That's all you need. Clean it, cover it, change the dressing, prevent infection. This is boring, unsexy, and it's the single most statistically important medical capability in a short-duration survival scenario. While others load their kits with tourniquets and chest seals they've never trained on, you focus on what the data says will actually matter. Minor wound care, blister prevention, infection control. The stuff that doesn't make for exciting content but keeps you functional. Running total, $9. Cotton bandana, $1. Do not skip this item. Army field medics rank the triangular bandage among the most useful single items in a casualty loadout. A cotton bandana folds into a triangular bandage with zero modification. Arm sling, head wrap, pressure dressing holder, wound tie. That's 4 medical applications from a $1 piece of fabric. But it doesn't stop there. Soak it in water and drape it over your neck. Evaporative cooling that drops your perceived temperature in heat by several degrees. Tie it over your nose and mouth. Dust filter, smoke reduction, not a respirator, but better than raw exposure. Need to pre-filter sediment from collected water before you boil or treat it? Fold the bandana into layers and pour water through it. It won't remove bacteria. That's what boiling is for. But it removes dirt, debris, and particulate that would otherwise make your water harder to stomach. Tie it to a stick and wave it. Signal flag. Use it to grip a hot foil cooking vessel. Pot holder. 1 item. Water pre-filter, triangular bandage, dust mask, signal flag, pot holder, cooling wrap. 6 functions. The commercial equivalents bought individually would run you $12 to $15. You just spent 1. Running total, $10. Now stop. I want you to pay attention to this. You're $10 in. You've got 6 items. Every single one of them solves at least 3 problems. Go grab any commercial bug out bag selling for $100 to $200 and count the functions per item. Count them honestly. You'll find wire saws that snap under load on the first real cut, compact fishing kits that require skills you don't have and time you won't get, single ignition sources with no backup, shelter options that fail in any real wind, and a combined function count that doesn't touch what you're holding right now. This kit isn't cheaper because it's worse. It's cheaper because it's built on triage logic instead of product marketing. Every item earns its slot by solving multiple problems. That's not a gimmick. That's how trained people build loadouts. If this approach is making sense to you, there's a subscribe button right below this video, because this is how every video on this channel works. Real capability. No filler. Let's finish the build. Small LED flashlight or headlamp, roughly $2 to $3. Light is the survival priority that civilians almost always forget. You plan for food. You plan for water. You forget that when the sun goes down and the power's out, you can't see your hand in front of your face. And then nothing else in your kit matters because you can't find it, you can't use it, and you can't move safely. A small LED flashlight gives you navigation after dark. You can assess injuries, you can read instructions, you can identify hazards on the ground that would twist an ankle or worse. Aimed upward or flashed in a pattern, a small LED is visible for over a mile at night. That's a signaling tool that requires zero skill to operate. On, off, on, off. Rescue teams look for light patterns. Give them one. But here's the function nobody talks about. Psychological stability. Darkness is a force multiplier for panic, documented across every disaster. People with light stay calmer. People with light make better decisions. People with light help others instead of freezing. A $2 flashlight isn't just a tool, it's a cognitive anchor that keeps you operational when everything around you has gone dark. Most commercial kits either skip light entirely or include a glow stick that lasts 8 hours and then becomes trash. Your flashlight lasts days to weeks on a single battery set and fits in your palm. Running total. $12, electrolyte powder packets, roughly $1 for a pack of 4 to 6. Military field medics identify electrolyte imbalance as the single most common preventable performance killer in survival scenarios. Not dehydration alone, electrolyte imbalance. There's a difference that most people don't understand until it's too late. You're sweating, you're stressed. Your body is burning sodium and potassium faster than normal. You find water, you drink it. But plain water without electrolyte replacement actually accelerates the imbalance. Your muscles cramp, your thinking fogs, your coordination drops. You feel like you're getting worse, even though you're hydrating. That's what electrolyte depletion looks like, and it mimics the symptoms of much more serious conditions. A single packet mixed into a water bottle replaces what you're losing. It costs pennies. It weighs almost nothing. And here's the bonus function nobody mentions. If you're treating water with purification tablets, those tablets make water taste like a swimming pool. Most people won't drink enough of it because it's unpleasant. Electrolyte powder masks the taste. It makes treated water palatable enough that you'll actually consume the volume you need. That's not a small thing. Dehydration accelerated by taste aversion is a documented field problem. While others spend $8 to $10 on a dedicated water flavoring system or skip electrolytes entirely, you've solved hydration, performance maintenance, and taste management for $1. Running total, $13, paracord or clothesline cord, 50 to 100 feet, roughly $1 to $1.50. Cordage is the single hardest survival resource to improvise from natural materials. You can improvise a cutting edge from a rock. You can improvise a container from bark. Try improvising 50 feet of strong, flexible rope from what you find on the ground. It takes hours. The result is fragile, and you needed it 30 minutes ago. That's why every military kit includes cordage, without exception. It's the resource you cannot afford to need and not have. Shelter rigging. You're tying a trash bag tarp between two trees. Without cord, that's not happening. Gear securing. You're lashing items to your pack or your body during movement through rough terrain. Drag litter construction. Somebody's hurt and can't walk. 2 poles and paracord make a functional drag litter. Drying line. Your clothing is soaked. Staying in wet clothes accelerates heat loss dramatically. String a line, dry your gear. Paracord rated at 550 pounds gives you far more strength than you'll need. Clothesline cord from the dollar store gives you slightly less strength, but still more than enough for every application listed. Both work. The standard commercial kit alternative is either no cordage at all or 10 feet of thin utility string that frays under real load. You've got 5 to 10 times the length and meaningful load capacity. Running total, $14. Petroleum jelly, 1 small container, roughly $1. Here it is. The item I told you about at the beginning, the one that changes how you think about fire. Take a cotton ball. You've got cotton in your first aid kit. You've got a bandana made of cotton. Smear petroleum jelly into that cotton ball until it's saturated. Now light it. That cotton ball will burn at high temperature for 3 to 4 minutes. 3 to 4 minutes of sustained flame. That's not a spark. That's not a flash. That's a fire starter that will ignite damp kindling a lighter flame alone cannot touch. After rain, after snow. When everything around you is wet and a naked lighter flame dies against damp wood in 4 seconds, you pull out a petroleum jelly cotton ball and you have 3 to 4 minutes of sustained high-temperature flame that dries the kindling as it burns it. This is the technique that separates trained fire builders from everyone who's stuck clicking a lighter at a wet log and wondering why nothing's catching. Commercial fire starting kits sell wax tabs and magnesium blocks for $10 to $15. They give you less burn time, less heat, and less reliability than petroleum jelly and cotton. A $1 jar of petroleum jelly combined with material you already have in this kit creates a fire-starting system that categorically outperforms products costing 10 times more. But it's not done. Petroleum jelly treats cracked, dry skin. In cold, dry conditions, your hands crack. Cracked skin bleeds. Bleeding skin gets infected. Apply petroleum jelly as a moisture barrier, and you prevent the crack from forming in the first place. Apply it over a wound, and it creates an occlusive layer that keeps debris out and moisture in. Same principle as commercial wound barrier products at a fraction of the cost. 1 item. Fire starting accelerant, skin protectant, moisture barrier, wound occlusive layer. 4 functions, $1, and the fire starting capability alone is worth the price of 5 commercial alternatives. Final total, $15, 10 items, shelter, fire, water, signaling, first aid, thermal management, built-in redundancy across every category. Every single item solves 3 or more problems. The total multifunction replacement value of dedicated single-purpose gear across this kit exceeds $80 conservatively. You just built it in one trip for $15. FEMA data shows 60% of households have 0 emergency supplies, not inadequate supplies, 0. The gap between this kit and a $200 commercial bag isn't money, it's knowledge, and now you own that knowledge. I've put together a deeper resource on this entire subject, linked in the description for when you don't have a signal or a screen. Drop a comment and tell me which item in this kit surprised you the most.